Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. I've been waiting all afternoon for these damn birds to quieten down. So I can make a video for you and give you some information, important information. This is going to be a good one. We'll see what happens with this. But the birds anyway, I've been waiting for the birds, but they're just hanging around all day, crapping on the car. Anyway, it's all cleaned up at the moment, but I'll get to the point of the story, right? So we've currently got the 120 on a trip and the 150 on a trip. Okay. Good to have two cars. This one, it's done nearly 400,000 Ks, right? I keep saying that. I can't wait till I can say it's done just over 400,000 Ks. It's got the original alternator on it down there. You can't see it. It's been through mud and water and everything, and it's never let us down. What happened yesterday was the battery light came on. Now, the battery light doesn't just mean you've got a dud battery. It kind of means your alternator's probably not charging, okay? Without going too much into that detail, I just want to say we had a battery light. So the first thing I did yesterday was I opened up the battery monitoring app, but that of course only tells me the voltage of the second battery over there, which was still around 12.6, which kind of says maybe the alternator wasn't charging for a while. This is why it pays to have good batteries. The Optima, the voltage was down around 12 volts, the engine was still running well, so I'm not sure. I wasn't driving the vehicle, so I wasn't sure how long it wasn't charging for. Now, disregard all these voltages and stuff, because I just want to explain to you some of the things you can do to keep mobile if you've got the vehicle set up right in the event that your alternator does fail. So first thing I want to say is I've had the batteries on charge all night and all day, so that's why you're going to see a voltage like that. That's the combination of the two batteries at the moment. It's going down. Possibly the fridge in the back is running. No, it's not. Hang on. Yeah, no, that'll be the battery. Hang on, let me just get it right here. Yep, that's that battery there. And it's probably, I would have thought it's higher than that. So the fridge must be running still. No, the fridge isn't running. I'm a bit surprised by that then. Anyway, it is what it is. I don't know what's going on there, why that's dropping down so fast, because it should stay higher than that. There's no load on the battery. They're both connected at the moment. That'd be partially what it is. One's probably sucking out of the other. That's what's going on. It'll drop down. What have I got going on? Did I left the key on or something? Anyway, this one's probably draining that one. It'll drop down and then that will pop up in a minute. Might happen in the video, let's see. But my point is, okay, so your alternator's stopped charging. What do? Well, first you confirm that by, in which case, if you've got one of those battery monitors on this battery, or look, we've got something else in the car, we can see the voltage, but it doesn't matter about that. What matters is this battery was slowly going flat. These two batteries weren't connected by the automatic isolator, which you can see there. It's got the red arc SPI 12, whatever it is, right? They're connected at the moment for a little bit longer. It'll probably cut out soon, right? I'll show you when it happens. You'll hear a click and I'll show you. But what was happening was the vehicle was running off this battery with no alternator, so it's just what's left in the battery. So obviously you want to shut off all electrical, anything that draws power, your radio, your fan, everything, shut it off, save what you can, because this battery is all that's left to run the electronics of the vehicle, the computers, you know, to fire the injectors and all that sort of thing. The older vehicles, like the 1KZ, they'd go a lot longer. They could go a really long time, hundreds of kilometers on a good battery with everything turned off. Now, this is a bit of a test. Well, it was going to be a test. I'll tell you what's happened, right? So down to 12.68, it's dropping down because they're connected, right? So what we were going to do was, I went, okay, we've got about 300 Ks we've got to go. We've got to travel about 300 Ks till we can get to our alternator, okay? So I thought this is really good for a real world, in the field type situation. What's going on? Come back into focus. It's too dark, it's not going to focus. Doesn't matter anyway, it's mainly just listen, all right? It'll come back in a minute. It's probably because I went, I don't know. Anyway, it's dark out here, look, right? And these birds, they're still going. rack off, would you? Anybody got an air rifle handy? So basically I figured, well, if we have everything shut off and we've got 2 batteries and they're set up right, which I haven't got a light here, sorry, to show you in detail what's going on, but the deal is both these batteries are earthed to the vehicle right here, and the positive wire, it's quite a large, you can't even see it, but it's like the size of a jumper cable, you know, your normal sort of large cranking, you get the picture. What do they call it? Probably, I don't know if it'd be 6 BNS or 4 BNS, something large like that. And it goes directly from there. Where does it go? Anyway, it doesn't matter where it goes. It goes along there and up to, you can't even see to here, onto that battery directly. Well, via the oscillator, of course, right? Now, the way I've got it set up, sorry about the dark here, but I've shown you in other videos before. I've got a little alligator clip here. Let me turn the, I've got a light here. I think there's a light we can turn on. Oh, do I have to stop the video to do that? Yeah, no, I don't know. Anyway, I probably could have turned it on before I started. That would have been handy, wouldn't it? It's not really working out, but hopefully it works out. We've got an alligator clip there that all we have to do is connect to the positive side of this battery, the auxiliary battery, or any battery, and to power it up and get the 2 to connect together. So what the plan was when we start the car, the alternator's not going to be charging, so this battery is going to be on its own, and I was going to monitor the voltage. And as it got down, or when the vehicle started to have symptoms, you'd sort of get it running a little bit rough, maybe a bit lack of response for the gear, the transmission gear shifting might not be right, it might blow some smoke and stuff like that. That's when I was going to stop and get out and connect this clip here, right, to the positive, and that means we've got this battery as well. And of course then this one will recover a little bit as well, whatever the case may be. Let's have a look what's going on over here. Seems to have settled at about 12.68. Anyway, if we had the fridge kick in, of course those 2 would separate. Normally that blue battery would be still up around 13 volts at this stage, but it's obvious because the 2 are connected together. I reckon we'd probably do the 300 Ks on the 2 batteries. Now the problem I've got is, and I'll show you, and I checked all the fuses and it wasn't a fuse, but the problem is, you come into the car, things fix themselves, right? I'll just start the car, you probably can't see what's going on. Right now, no battery light, right? We had a battery light on, I'll just turn the, like I said, it's getting dark. Battery light's normally, you know, down here somewhere. Oh, you can't even see my finger, can you? That's terrible, down here, right? Down here, down on the tacker at the bottom here, somewhere there, battery light, okay? It's not on at the moment. That's the good news. The alternator's charging again, and we can see that because you can see the 14.5 volts with the booster diode. Happy days, right? So we're in luck. That's the good news, okay? That's the good news. It might not be working tomorrow. So there's a problem there that's intermittent. So we'll have to get that checked out. But if at some stage we'll be monitoring the situation, let's just have a look. There it is, see, 14.38. And we can go to our OBD app, the Bluetooth 3210. That's where this comes in handy, connected. We just go dashboard, bang, oh hang on, dashboard, bada bing, and down the bottom here, 14.06. So we're charging at the moment. That's the good news. Stone cold engine. I just started up to do this video. Sorry it's dark, but I hope you get the picture. Anyway, alright, so what's going to happen in the rest of this video is it's going to be probably a non-event, okay, perhaps. Maybe it's going to be a non-event, we'll see what happens. But what we're going to do is we're going to start the vehicle, we're going to drive it. If the alternator charges all the way, then there's no real story to tell. This is going to be it. So if you haven't already, make sure you've subscribed, turn the bell on so you don't miss out on this important information that's really educational for you. And what the information was going to be, you can see here I've got a lead set up to the next cabin. We've sort of stole a bit of power from there, the igniter for the hot water service. Anyway, so the lead runs along here, and I'll just show you this because it's important. So I was saying about how the vehicles are set up. What we've got in the vehicle is, when it's parked, I just plug in this. This goes to a power board, and inside the car here, we'll just open it up. Have a look. I've shown you before, but you probably can't see it because it's dark, so it's a waste of time. But in there, just on the side down there, right, there's a little charger, and the charger goes back into the power system at this end and charges that auxiliary battery. And if I want, I can connect the two together using that same little alligator clip, charges both of them. And the fridge, see, 240 volt wire, so the 12's there and the 240's here. The 240 always overrides the 12. It goes into the power board as well. So when the car's parked, you literally just plug this plug into your power, and your battery's full, and your fridge is running on 240 volt, which is more efficient, works better, right? Now, I've unplugged it at the moment because I was going to birds are even crapping on the vehicle. I was going to demonstrate, what I'm doing. So the point is, the batteries will be fully charged. I'm about to plug that back in, but I don't know if the alternator is going to work tomorrow or not. So I'll be monitoring that. I'll try and give you some video updates. That'll be in daylight, thankfully. Sorry about the darkness, but I hope you see what I'm trying to do. This is a bit of R&D where we're going to see how long one of these engines will run on a 5.5-year-old Optima, or a pair of 5.5-year-old Optimas, whatever it ends up needing to be. But might not work out if that alternator charges all the way home. So either way, we'll get it out, we'll get it checked out. I'll let you know what the problem with it was. And there's a whole lot of other related info in my other videos, really. So it's really important that you go back and watch those. So as I said before, it's just like a big jigsaw puzzle, and all the pieces sort of will come together, and there's, I don't know, I think it's going to be like a 1,000,000-piece jigsaw puzzle in the end. So anyway, guys, we'll call it at that. I hope I've explained what's going on. The alternator wasn't charging yesterday, but it is today. So there you go. We're leaving in the morning with full batteries. If we're in a remote area, we wouldn't be able to do this charging, right? But then what we've got is, we've got an Anderson plug. You can barely see that. You can see it right there, connected direct to that battery. And we've got solar panels, right? This is the other reason solar panels are good, because then you could pop them up on the roof there, and it'd be sitting there for a day or two charging before you did your drive. And you could also have them zip tied to that flat roof, or you could have them strapped down over your swags, or whatever the case may be, and have that power running directly into that battery, or even better via your DC-DC charger regulator, rather than the one that comes with a solar. And the point is, that would then put the power into this battery enough to run the vehicle. Of course, you'd want to switch your fridge off as well, unfortunate if you got food in there. It just depends how far you got to go and how long you need it to last, what you got to do. But look, I'll try and explain a bit more tomorrow if it ends up that the alternator's not charging. Obviously, if it is, there's not much to tell you. I'll just tell you the alternator charge we made at home. I'll get the alternator checked out by the auto elect to find out exactly what went wrong with it, and whether it's just the pulley or the diodes or whatever the case may be. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let's see what happens, eh? And now the damn birds go quiet, almost. Hey guys, so we're approximately 15 kilometres into our journey. When we started the car this morning, we had an alternator. Okay, so we were, we had 14.4 volts with the alternator and the voltage booster diode working. There it is, it's back on again. That's what I want you to see. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with at the moment. I'm tipping in a few seconds that'll drop out again. Right, so at the same time as our battery light comes on, that voltage drops down. Okay, so I'm not the auto electrician, I'm just showing you guys what happens, and we're doing some R&D to see how far the car will go. But at the end of the video, I'll tell you what percentage the alternator was charging or not, right? So at the moment, we've got the fridge shut off just in case this happened. We've got our fan off, we've got our radio off. We're driving in a bit of fog, so we had our lights off, but then when the fog was bad, we turned them on, because calculated risk, we had charge like we do now. So calculated risk, we went, well, while it's charging and the fog's bad, but we've got a vehicle directly in front of us with the lights on, so we're taking that safety precaution there. And So currently you can see it's working, so it's dropping in and out. And to my surprise, so what I've done at the moment, if I remember correctly, I didn't open the bonnet this morning. I'm pretty sure I've got both batteries connected together with a little alligator clip, right? So I've got Mitch here holding the camera for me. He's doing an awesome job. Good work, mate. He does this a bit for me while I'm driving, because of course, you can't be touching cameras or phones or things like that while you're driving, even if you're allowed to touch your radio, your fan speed, your electric windows, and all these other buttons, brake controllers, but you're not allowed to touch your phone. So, alright, so a bit of common sense, but so good to see we've got charge happening at the moment. So this is probably going to help us, but by having systems, so this is why, I suppose, this is why you have these sort of setups, right? You need to have something that reads your battery voltages, right? Your battery light's good when it comes on, but it's not always telling you exactly what's going on. This situation we've got here, when that alternator's dropping out, the battery light comes on, it's solid. We've got zero charge, right? It's a solid red light. And if it comes up on the dash again, I'll try and show it to you. Sometimes what happens in some vehicles, so this is not Prado specific, I suppose a little bit, because we're in a 120 Prado at the moment, but it's other vehicles similar. It's all very similar information. All the information on my channel, you can relate to other vehicles. It's not that complicated. It's all basically, we'll call it similar instead of using the word same systems. It's an engine, it's got a piston, it's a battery, it's an alternator, it's an EGR system, whatever. It's all, some of the information is specific because that's what we specialise in. But you can relate. So with some vehicles, the battery light will come on, it'll just be dull because you're kind of getting part charge, you know what I mean? So, and it all depends on the condition of your battery. This is why it pays to have good batteries in good condition. Don't stretch them out till they're on their last legs. And the other thing I'd like to say is, everything you do to your alternator to make it work a bit harder is going to reduce the life of your alternator. Now, it might reduce it by 0.01%, whatever, right? That little amount if you've got a quality component. But by having extra batteries, by having DC chargers, by having booster diodes, by having all these extra loads, maybe even things like driving at night a lot, and you've got a lot of high beams or extra lights, it's putting a lot of extra load on the alternator. So just beware, that is the situation. I'll just quickly touch on batteries. The best way to keep a battery is full. So that's not bring it home and let your fridge run your battery down. And I'll admit, this battery, this Optima battery, our blue D34M, that's about 5.5 years old, it's been absolutely hammered, okay? Don't get me wrong, it's been looked after, but it's been absolutely hammered as well, right? That means days sitting there getting drained down. So that's not best route, but that's real life. That's what happens, and that's, we're going to let that happen. But when it's possible to plug it in and keep it full, then that's what you do. You don't have your daily drive, your work car that you drive 20 minutes to work and back up in the northern states of Australia or in summer, and have a fridge running all the time and only give it, half an hour a run a day. It's not enough. I don't care if you think you got a DC charger. This is an argument about what's better or not with those. It's all good. It's all good information, but I can tell you right now, I certainly prefer. Okay, so I'm driving the 120. It's got the Red Arc SPI 12 or SPI. I don't know. They used to be called an SPI 112, or if I read it wrongly, now they're an SPI 12, whatever. That basic isolator, right? The alternator can charge 2 batteries just as well as it can charge 1. Okay, if they're under the bonnet at that distance. Now, it depends where your batteries are, what size cables you've used. I definitely prefer this system because I see the voltage right there. You're looking at it, 14.4. It's been pumping out for 400,000 Ks, and these batteries are in awesome condition. They last really well and they get a good surface charge. Sorry, Mitch, I know you're getting a bit tired holding that there, aren't you? Yeah? Doing good work, mate. I'll pay your commission, right? I'll look after you. Remember you went on the go-karts yesterday? Now you're earning your keep. Okay, so basically, we've got a cameraman now, it's awesome. So, I'm waiting for this alternator to drop out again so I can show you the battery light and exactly where it is. So Mitch, when that drops down to like 12 again, or 11.9 it was dropping down to, we're going to carefully bring the camera up and just show them the battery light up on the dash here. If you can handle that. It might be hard for you, but so when the batteries are dropping to 11.9. That's quite concerning because we've got all electrical loads off other than what the vehicle is using to run the engine and the transmission. So this is the problem you've got. The newer the vehicles get, more electronics, okay? And when your alternator drops out, you're going to have problems pretty quick unless you've got some awesome battery works going on. The fact that it drops to 11.9, that's telling us there's a massive load on those batteries, okay? I'm telling you now, that's what it's telling us, because if you have a good battery, for example, okay, batteries, a good battery voltage just sitting there static is going to be no less than 12.65 through to about 12.8, even over 12.8, 12.9, you know, but different batteries vary. We're talking generally most batteries, what most people have got, you know, 12.65 to 12.8. Anything under 12.6, you come out and it's 12.5, 12.6 and you haven't had a load on it, and it was charged the day before, you know, by driving it or charging or whatever, you know, you've got charge voltage, you've got to let that settle. That's why I say charge the day before, let it settle overnight, check it the next morning. If you've got a battery that's anything under 12.65, it's time to replace it, okay? Because when you get when the battery's down, the alternator's going to work harder. We already talked about that. You're creating more work for the alternator by adding these loads, and by keeping batteries that are overdue, you're creating work for the alternator, and you're going to possibly make this happen sooner or cause the problem, okay? Now this alternator, it's done really well. It's the original alternator at, as I said, nearly 400,000 Ks, so bada bing, that's beautiful. And we're in a bit of luck here at the moment with this alternator charging, so we're going to run a bit more R&D at the moment. We've got the lights off, the fog's clearing up a little bit, and not too bad. And like I said, we've got the vehicle in front of us, you know, a perfectly safe distance right in front of us, if you know what I mean. Minimum safe distance, you know, 6 or 8 car spaces. So we'll keep that there for safety. We'll keep our loads off because we're still to probably 260, 70 Ks from our destination for the day. We would like to make it, that will be the most convenient thing. So we're just going to cruise like this. If the fog gets worse, we're going to turn the lights on anyway. If the alternator, so I'm going to do a bit of R&D. I'm kind of saying, well, is it when we add the load, the alternator's dropping out, right? Because if we can manage it by reducing the load, then maybe, you know, you can baby it even further. You know, you can baby it on for hundreds and hundreds of kilometres perhaps. But I'm not going to do it yet because we're so far from home. We've still got to cross that border is closed between Victoria and New South Wales as of midnight last night. Today's Wednesday, the first day after the border's closed. Common sense, my understanding is the border's closed, heading north out of the cage. You cannot leave the cage. You can enter the cage, but you can't leave the cage. If you enter the cage, expect a quarantine period to return again, unless you've got a permit. So, and just on that one, look, I feel for the residents along the border. The, you know, massive towns where it's dual, you know, everything's kind of shared, working here, working there. Totally get it, and the disease is not anywhere near you. So I totally get it. I totally agree with locking down Melbourne. I wish they would do it properly. This is just going to be another shopping fest. These 4 reasons to go out. People think it's a, you know, go shopping fest. No, stop going to the shops to get a loaf of bread. Go and fill your trolley and then stay home, okay? This is serious. Stay home, okay? The other states don't want it. Stay home. I wish we didn't have to lock our borders, right? Because that's a big waste of resources that could be used to make sure people are doing the right thing around COVID Central, okay? Melbourne, you know, spread it around city, right? Yeah, really good work. Could have happened to anyone, okay? We're all the same, we're all in this together, not really, but look, could have happened in any state. I disagree with locking down the borders for a number of reasons, you know, like, you know, these, you know, country Victoria, why can't they travel? They haven't got no, you know what I mean? So how about this one, right? How about locking down the borders from the international, right? So we're going to stop. So we've got, okay, you know, we've had it locked down when there was 3 cases a day and 8 cases a day, which, you know, it's silly because you're bringing in plane loads of people that you know are positive that have come from countries with thousands and thousands of cases a day. So is that just dumb or what? You want to lock it down hard. You want to keep this under control, but you're bringing the flights in. Anyway, I'm going completely off topic, right? So need to stop the flights, at least temporarily, right? At least temporarily. Sorry, like I said, just making a video. Sorry about that, guys. Just a bit of interruption there. You get that? And I was just being warned about the corellas. Well, they're not corellas anyway. They're damn cockies. That was a bunch of cockies, wasn't it? Anyway, do they look the same? Maybe they're normally corellas, but look, I just had a quick look. I don't think. What do you reckon, Mitch? Were they corellas or cockies? You don't want to have your voice famous on a video? Oh, you're even worse about the privacy than me. Anyway, we don't really care about that. Yeah, we'll get your voice on there eventually, and we'll turn the camera around, won't we? Yeah, we just got to keep them waiting. Yeah, keep them waiting. All right, guys. Mitch, let's stop that video because, mate, it's pretty boring here. We've got 14.5 volts. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys, this is Moama, just outside the cage. I was just going to show you what's going on here. The border lockdown. The border is locked. We are going back into the cage. So you can see on the other side of the road, you've got New South Wales police. New South Wales are doing it. Victoria aren't doing it. It's a New South Wales thing, so they've sent all theirs down. This is the crossing between Moama and Echuca. So yeah, you got to feel for all the locals and that are, you know, it's like one town, mate. You know, the bridge is the middle of the town. Completely ridiculous. I mean, I get it, but you know, look at this line of traffic, guys. How would you be? And you haven't even got, you know, you haven't got it anywhere near. Lockdown Melbourne, no worries. Yeah, we've got this bloke out parked next to double lines taking photos. But yeah, look at that. We'll show you how long it goes for. Why not? Not cool. Not cool. You wouldn't want to be, you know, getting fuel over the other side of the river or something when you get there. We should have measured in kilometres, okay? So I'll make a mark now. So around about, I reckon, what was that so far? I'll go 600 metres. Alright. Not too bad actually, coming to the end of the line. So it's probably only a 20-minute delay. I'd say approximately, maybe just under a kilometre of traffic. So not too bad. Bada bing. Alright guys, so we've done over 100 Ks, and the only time that alternator was cutting out was those times just before and what we managed to catch in the video, and that happened to be shortly after we turned our lights on for the fog. And you can see it's a bit foggy, but there's plenty of visibility, so it's safe enough to drive without our lights on now. So it was a concern, the fact that as soon as the alternator drops out, the batteries, combined batteries, immediately down to 11.9 volts is what I was trying to say, because that's quite a load, you know, it really is. Normally if you know, just turned your, look, I'm not too sure about that. I reckon it's, you know, you got to think when a fridge is running on the battery, it drops around about half a volt. So if you switch the engine off without a load, the batteries would still be above 13 for probably 10 minutes usually, something like that, you know, charge volts. It takes time to settle. So, you know, the fact that it drops down so much is saying just the basics of the vehicle. And what we got on video, we had everything off. That's windscreen wipers off, lights off, fans off, radios off, everything possible thing we could turn off was turned off. So, and that's including with the fridge off. Okay, so we did that at the start just in case something happened. The good news is, like I said, we've done, I reckon, about 100 Ks. So we're about a third of our journey complete, and it's looking good at the moment. But that's the bad news is how much load there is. The good news is this time it worked out well. Now I'm going to do a bit more R&D as we get closer to the destination, as in turn the lights on again, just to see if that extra load on the alternator is what causes it to flick off, and then when we take the load away it comes back on again. But I'm concerned that if it was on too long that it might not come back type thing, if you know what I mean. So once we stop the engine, I think the load would come off the batteries and the voltage would go up again. But what I'm saying, to bring the battery down, if a fridge takes about 0.4 or about half a volt with the compressor running, so 13 might drop to 12.6 or something like that, or a 12.8, a battery that's a good voltage, 12.8 recently charged in good condition, when the fridge compressor kicks in it might drop to 12.3, 12.4. If we're dropping double that, it's quite a big load. But let's say it was like 2 fridges, that's kind of like what it's saying, you know. It's a bit different than that, you know. I'm not the electronics engineer. There's probably a mathematical calculation that, you know, someone can do. If someone does know more about that, that can put it in, translate for us. For example, our fridge, when the compressor's running, uses about 2.5 amp hours, let's say, and that drops about half a volt, we'll say, sometimes 0.4, but about half, depending what voltage you start at. If the voltage is dropping by double, then how many amp hours sort of thing do you think the draw is what we need to work out. And then we could say, well, the batteries have got this capacity, that's what it's drawing, this is how long we've got. So we haven't been able to do that yet, but my guess is maybe 3 hours, maybe we could have done it. I would have liked to know, but today wasn't the time for it, you know what I mean? So what we will do, I may not immediately tear this alternator off and swap it over or repair it or whatever the case may be. We might do a bit of R&D with it once we've got a system in place, like a spare battery in the car that we can swap over to get us home, or a spare alternator that we can swap over, and all the tools at hand so we can quickly swap that over, which we can do. We've got the tools. We haven't got the alternator now. I don't know if I mentioned earlier in the video, I think I did, in that dark part of the video, that our spare alternator, we've got a spare alternator that we share between a few of us, and it was in one of the other vehicles, and towards the end of the trip it went home with the alternator. It's always the way, right? So it's just how things work out sometimes. But I just want to confirm, with no load, with these 2 batteries connected together, we're still getting full charge, 14.5 volts. It's really awesome. So if it is to drop out on us, even with that load, I reckon it's looking good for quite a while. So I think, I don't know if I'm going to risk it an hour from our destination or half an hour, but I'm going to fire up the lights, the fridge and every other thing, and get that alternator to drop out. And I will turn it off, turn the lights and everything off again, to see if it comes back to us, if you know what I mean. See if it does that again, or see if after a certain amount of drain it takes longer to come back to us, and we'll monitor how long that it wasn't charging for. We will, and if it obviously stays off, then we'll get to see how long it lasts anyway. So your main cranking battery is normally the type of battery that doesn't like getting run down and cycled like that, so not the best thing for it. So it's probably advisable to have the 2 connected together. So if you've got a DC-DC charge and you can't do what we've done, connecting the 2 together, which you generally can't, it's probably worth considering. If you've got both your batteries well earthed to the vehicle, then all you would need to carry is a red positive cable, you know, like decent size, minimum kind of 6 or 4 BNS or something, you know, what you'd use for jump cables. You'd use an old set of jump cables and just take the red positive, cut the ends off, put a couple of terminals, long as it was long enough that you could then manually connect, right? You don't have to put an isolator in, you can just have this wire, and you just undo your accessory terminal on the battery, and you very carefully, don't let it short out anywhere, connect your positive to your positive, and then you've permanently connected your batteries together, if you know what I mean. So here we are at the moment, just going through Rocky. Oh yeah, we should go and show you those painted silos, eh? While things are working right. Let's see about that, eh? Yeah. Alright guys, so I suppose I better give you the update and correct the information that wasn't 100% right. So last night in the dark there, if you watch obviously from the start of the video, not only could you not see what I was doing, I couldn't see what I was doing. And I've got a little alligator clip there that I connected the positive that makes a manual connection to connect the two batteries together using the red arc isolator. And I thought I'd clip that back on in the right place. Apparently I didn't, or when it went over a bump it came off. I'm not sure which one. Now, so when we were driving earlier in the video and it dropped down to 11.9 volts and all that sort of thing, you know, when the alternator momentarily stopped charging, it was obviously one battery, not two. I was surprised by it going so low. You know, I sort of said there's a big load there, and I was surprised by how much load there was, because I was thinking there's two batteries, two awesome Optimas, a fully charged with the fridge switched off deep cycle D34M, and the 34, the red top cranker, right? And I thought, two good batteries. As soon as that alternator stops charging, it drops to 11.9. I went, wow, that's a massive load. But no, what was happening, as soon as it stops charging, because that manual connection wasn't there, the batteries disconnected from each other, okay, and they were back to automatic connection and disconnect, right? So they disconnected because the voltage is so low, and all that load was on the red top battery, right? Remembering it's a cranking battery and it's about 5.5 years old. It's still in good nick, but it's not going to hold up as well as having two connected together. So just wanted to correct that bit of information there, because I'll tell you what's happened. We've done about 230, 240 Ks. We're past 2/3 of the way on our journey today. And since then, and through the rest of the video, I haven't had any issues. Now, approximately 20 minutes ago, I turned the lights on. Didn't make any difference. So I just stopped and thought I'll manually disconnect that extra auxiliary battery so that A, I've got a full charge battery there, and B, so I can see how long the main cranking battery lasts for should it play up on me. And that's where I found that alligator clip flopping around loose, that had come off, so it wasn't on properly, it wasn't manually connecting them. So the information is, it didn't drop to 11.9 with two batteries, it dropped with one, which makes more sense because normally they drop down around 12. At idle I saw it drop to 12 when the battery light was on. So obviously driving at speed at 100 Ks or whatever, you're using more power. So the electronics to run the fuel system mainly, you got to think about it, the engine, what's it got? You know, it's got the injectors, there's not a lot of electronics, but you've got computers, you know, you've got the brain work and the solenoids and stuff that all they all use power to run. Where with, for example, I'll just touch on the 1KZ engine for a minute. The 1KZ manual, for example, the manual's, it's completely mechanical and the injectors are mechanical. That engine uses very little power to keep running, okay? I'm not going to say, it all depends what battery you got, but I have read of stories of people with 1KZs that have had the alternator problem, charged up the battery overnight and driven 600 kilometers. That's the most I've heard, 600 kilometers with a 1KZ manual. So that is a really good, reliable thing about the old vehicles. And some people are going, yeah, that's why I got the 1KZ manual. And you're right. And the other good thing is, when your alternator when your starter motor shags out, guess what? You can do a roll start. Just park on a hill, right? So the old manuals are good for that sort of reliability. Unfortunately, they're getting old and they're a bit smoky, and you know, the power isn't there, the torque isn't there, the emission control, the cleanliness, fuel system, it's not there. So it's not, we've got to move on for the environment and for our own health, unfortunately. And there's a lot of positives. So there's pros and cons of everything, but you've got to watch these electronics. It just adds more weight to things like carrying a spare alternator and the tools to change it and the know-how. So practice it. If you get yourself a spare alternator, you don't need to spend, so you know, we go genuine parts, but you don't need to go and spend, you know, $1,000 on a new genuine alternator to carry as a spare. You don't really want to change it prematurely, because they can fail in less than 150,000 Ks, okay? Or they can last, like this one, nearly 400,000 Ks, as many others have. So it's not really a change as prevention item, I don't think, okay? Your best option probably is to get a, you know, here we go again with the Chinese crap, but like an eBay special, the cheapest alternator you can get for 150, 200 bucks, carry that as a spare, know what tools you need to change it, get the practice by changing it, put it on there, Put it on the vehicle for two reasons. To A, make sure it works. Put it on there and run it for a week, right? Make sure it works, yep, happy days. And if you've got an alternator voltage boosted diode that boosts up the standard alternator by about half a volt or so, you may need to remove that, because these aftermarket alternators, they're a bit different. They may be putting out a bit too much charge with that. So make sure you carry the original, I think it's a 7.5 amp fuse that goes in the fuse box under the bonnet to replace that booster diode at the same time, so you're not overcharging. So important information. You've got to stick around. I know this is probably going to be a long one, but you don't stick around, you don't get all the right accurate information. Right, so carry a spare, know how to install it, but I suggest you keep using the genuine, because genuine's always best, and they put out the right charge rate. There is some PDTC codes that can come up, a code or a couple of codes with aftermarket alternators, and you know, it is caused by, it's a bit of, I think it's a alternator overcharge voltage code or something along those lines. They can come up. People do experience that. Sometimes it happens a lot, sometimes it happens randomly, once or twice a year, or once and never see it again, things like that. So it's not something to worry about, but another reason why I say you should always have something that can scan and clear DTCs, right? I don't know what's going on with this alternator, guys. It'll be interesting. We'll check it out. There's no battery light, there's no voltage drop. We've got the lights on. Maybe when there's no cars, we'll start chucking on high beam. See if the load, we'll see if the load upsets it. Now we're getting closer to our destination. So we've got the AutoFix 3210 plugged in. I've got the dashboard up. It's telling me that from the ECU, 14.1 volts roughly. It is jumping around up, you know, down to 13.8, up to 14.1, touch over 14.1. So it is jumping around a little bit, but I think they do that. So I'm just watching it, 13.93, 13.91. I've noticed it's been a bit jumpy in this car anyway. And the other thing we've got is the battery monitor, so we can go across that. But as I said, that will only work if we've got the two connected together, because that's on the that's to give me an idea of the auxiliary battery if I want to know what that's at, without actually going to the car. I'll switch. You can be near the car and just open the app and go, oh yeah, you know, 12.6, yeah, better put it on charge, you know. Getting down a little bit. I like to keep my batteries ideally, like I said, a good battery is 12.65 to 12.8 is a minimum, so I really like to keep them above 12.65, ideally 12.8 or higher. Okay, so if you're monitoring your batteries and you see them down at 12.4, well, it's not full, so it's not ideal. That could be, you know, 60% state of charge or something like that. It's not full, far from it, you know. So every battery is different. Guys, I hope that's been helpful. I haven't got anything else for you. This didn't eventuate into being the test I thought it would be. Maybe I was a bit lucky as well, because when I plugged that charger in again last night, it obviously charged my auxiliary battery to maximum, which was good, and I switched the fridge off this morning, so we had a full battery there, and it's been charging ever since anyway, because the alternator's working, which is awesome, with the fridge off, which doesn't make a big difference, I suppose, as long as you turn your fridge off once it happens. Not having that manual connection connected overnight, that cranking battery didn't get its last final boost of charge and power, if you know what I mean, to be absolutely full. So I kind of sat overnight while I had the doors open this morning, loading the car last night with the lights on. Doesn't make a big deal, but that all uses power, and that may have, you know, that may have not got replenished, if you know what I mean. So it might have been a bit of a, you know, 90% or 80% or something along those lines, where if your battery is not brand new, you want to be 100%. The newer your battery is, the better. This just gets me thinking. I know that the batteries are really good still at a bit over 5 years, but you know what, new batteries are going to be better. And you know, I'm into value for money. I don't like wasting things. So on one hand, I'm going, these batteries are good, they've got plenty more life in them. I want to prove how long they can last. You know, put my money where my mouth is, if you like. But on the other hand, I'm going for absolute reliability. It's time to invest in a couple more Optimas. Give every battery a call and say, hey, 2 Optimas, a red 34 for cranking, the D34 in marine. You know, I just like those. They're the same as the yellow top, but they've got the extra terminals for your connections, which is really good. That's what I prefer. Yeah, so the yellow and the blues, I'll just touch on that, they're the same. The light grey case is your deep cycle. If you've got a, I think it's a, I'm not sure about the dark grey case, but you want the light grey case. People talk about dark grey, I don't know about that, but if you've got a black case, it's a cranking battery. The red battery is a cranking, it's got higher CCAs and lower reserve capacity. It's a different construction, right? So one's for cranking, one's for deep cycle. Now, a bit more extra information for you, because people do ask about batteries. There's going to be people that watch this to the end, and that's awesome. If you do and you have, please remember to give us a thumbs up if you got some awesome helpful information out of that. As I said earlier, subscribe, bell on. I'm sure you've already done that. You'd have rocks in your head if you didn't yet. Best YouTube channel, I'm told. Awesome, keep it up. So take the people's advice and subscribe and turn that bell on. Don't worry about what I say, I've already said it. Now it's their turn. I'm passing it on from the people. Look at the comments, they like it. We're going to keep doing it and we're going to make it better. So what was that last bit of advice I was going to give you? I don't know. Or I just totally keep the battery full. So yeah, every battery, whatever. Okay, so black, that's your cranker. Light grey, that's your deep cycle. Okay, that's what I was going to say. If you like to go out every weekend on the hardest tracks and get bogged in your winching, don't get a red top. Okay, the best advice I can give you is whether you've got two yellows or a yellow and a blue, whatever you want. Like I said, the yellow and the blues are the same battery, those with a grey case, basically the same number. We're using 34s as an example because they do last really well. They've got a good capacity, even though 55 amp hour, it's more usable than a lot of other batteries. We like to keep it light, we're saving weight. You can go for the bigger one if you like. What number is it? I forget. 27, there you go. D27, that's, even though it's a lower number, it's a bigger battery. It's like some other things where the numbers are opposite. The D27 or whatever is that big yellow top, they're about 70 or 80 amp hours, somewhere there, I don't know. I don't use them, I see them in cars, they're big and heavy, they're heavier. I haven't needed a battery any bigger than the 34. I can park the car today, the fridge will still be running, not tomorrow, the next day, and the battery will be only down to 12 volts, circa, give or take, depends on the weather you're in. If you're in cold weather, it's going to be higher. If you're in hot weather, it's going to be lower. The fridge is still running. If you're trying to run it on freezer and park the car in the hot sun on a 60 degree, on a 40 degree day that's 60 or 70 in the car, mate, you're going to have problems because you're asking too much of any battery, really, you know. So anyway, guys, if you're going to go out winching and have these heavy loads where you want to connect your two batteries together, be careful, because if you're winching a lot, you can flatten both batteries quite easily. Okay, so you might want to stick to one. If you're doing a small amount of winching, spread the load between two, on and off, keep your engine running, keep the revs up to 1500, 2 grand if you can, in neutral, let the winch do the work is often better than trying to spin your wheels. You're just digging yourself in more while the winch is trying to, so let it pull the vehicle out on top of the slop or the sand, and once you're on, you might gently help, try and drive the vehicle. Don't bother spinning your wheels, you're just digging yourself in even more, making it hard for the winch, making it take longer. You know, this isn't a video about winching, but be aware, the winches absolutely smash your batteries, and if you do it a lot, you're going to kill your batteries. And don't tell me the Optimas are crap because you've done that. You're going to kill batteries, doesn't matter what they are. So I suggest you avoid it, keep it to a minimum, give it a good break. If you're going to do that, then you can run them both together, will be better for them. But if you think you're going to flatten them, then use one so that you flatten one, and then you can stop winching, let them, and you've still got the other one to keep the car going. You're just going to have to give it a break and let it recharge, you know. They take a massive amount of juice, okay? Anyway, guys, a bit too much information there, but at least added a bit more information for you. I'll give you another bit of information while we're at it. This vehicle, the 90 litre lights just come on, and it's done 885 kilometres on the odometer. Is that good economy? Yeah, pretty good. It's mainly a bit of short tripping around and everything, sort of keeping it down to about 100k. It's not, we've just sort of travelling on close to about 105 at the moment, but mainly been travelling around 100 and less, which is your best economy. That's where you get driving it nice, consistent. The faster you go, the more it's going to cost you. Again, this is not about economy. I'm just really trying to give you some information, and I hope you're loving it. While I wait for this battery light to come on, I don't know what I can do to make it come on. So it seems to have fixed itself. We've got the UHF running. Here we go. I'll fire up the radio as well. We've got the fan going here. I'll crank up the fan a couple of notches. We've got the fan speed on 3. I'll turn the radio on. What's going to use the most radio? Load up the USB stick, maybe. Still charging. Fans up. Lights are on. What else can we do? Check the high beams on for a second. That's high beam. That hasn't done anything. It's still working. Right, bizarre. So you can even load it up. So look, it could be to do with the clutch pulley, so we'll check that out. It's always a problem when you've got an intermittent problem. It's hard to find, but it could be to do with that. It could be to do with the electronics inside the alternator. As I said, I'm certainly not the auto electrician expert on it. When there's an alternator problem, I don't deal with it. I send it to the specialist, right? Look, I might be able to open up an alternator and replace it. Look, I can do anything. I can figure out anything, you know, right? As many of you can. But sometimes it's worth sending the vehicle to a specialist. If you've got a good, reliable specialist, right, I'll turn that radio down, it's on, but whatever. If you've got a good, reliable specialist, so look, you kind of got to go, okay, let's say for example, your power steering. How often does that have a problem? It doesn't. So if you're going to have a problem, surely the people that have been rebuilding power steering pumps and racks for 20, 30 years or whatever are going to do a better job than you doing it once. Well, unfortunately, that's not always the case. So you've got to be careful what specialist you go to. That's why sometimes you, being trained by a specialist, right, very carefully, won't make you a specialist, but it'll make you the best person for that job, right? So I am a Prado Hilux specialist, specialising particularly in the fuel system, the injectors, not just the replacement, and everything related, all the information related around that. Encyclopedia 1KD fuel system, okay? Because there wasn't really anyone else out there that did that and gave 100% all the right information. There was a couple of people or places that were good, that were 90%, that we thought they did good work, or you know, thought they used the right products, you know. But these people, they weren't cleaning properly, we found out then. They weren't replacing fuel pipes, you know. Trying to do people favours, not replacing the fuel pipes. You're not doing them a favour, okay? The fuel pipes, as per the book, in bold writing, you know. Now we've gone totally off topic. Let's get back on the topic. Alternator, okay? There's an auto electrician. It's not that hard to be a specialist in alternators and starter motors. I've got this old guy, Brucey boy. He's pretty cool. He tells you the truth. He's been doing it for years. He knows what he's doing, and he uses quality components. And bada bing, that's what I do. Okay, I suppose I haven't got time to be the specialist in everything. He is a specialist. We'll let him do that. We delegate that to him. Okay, I hope you've got someone as well. If your alternator was to fail and you're carrying that spare, you've got your tools, you know how to fit it, you know it works, you put it on there, it gets you out of trouble to the end of your trip. Then you take your original alternator to your specialist. They sort it out. They do the rebuild, the clean, what they replace, whatever the case may be, if it's possible. Sometimes it's not possible, the damage isn't worth fixing, and you do need to go for a new one. Genuine's best, or there's a couple of other good brands, which I can't remember what they are, that are good or just as good, if not better than Genuine type thing. So that's what we would go for. You know, in my opinion, you don't want to go for the El Cheapo $200 special for your replacement, okay? That becomes your spare again. I'm just going to turn the radio down. That becomes your spare again once you've got your proper alternator replaced, genuine, you know, variable voltage type alternator, right? That's my thoughts on it, guys. I've waffled on long enough. You can easily do that when you're driving and you've got all this information to share. I'll remind you again, thumbs up, please. Comments. Let us know if you've had any similar issues with the alternator. I expect to see a few of those. What you did to rectify it. You know, whether you got it fixed, replaced it with a Chinese one, whatever. Whether you kept your spare, it might be worth getting fixed to carry as a spare, because I can tell you, we got lucky this time, right? It came good overnight, and on the drive it did flick off and on, and we were just lucky to catch that on the video, to be quite honest. Yeah, so, because that was the only time it's happened, and I thought, was that due to the load of the lights being on and stuff like that? But we've got it all on now, so it's just intermittent at its own choice when it wants to work or not. You could be lucky like me, or you could be not so lucky and end up on the side of the road. More likely to happen if you haven't got two good batteries and if you haven't recognised what the problem is. So how was it first recognised? By the big red battery light. On the 120 it sits underneath roughly the 6 on the RPM, right, on the engine revolutions per minute. Big bright red battery light is what drew the driver's attention to it. The other thing you can do, as you saw, I've got in that cigarette lighter plug. They're just an El Cheapo $5 thing off eBay. Gives you the voltage and the air temp. You know, it's got a little thermometer on it. We've got that for obvious viewing in both vehicles, in all the vehicles, obviously all the vehicles we've got anything to do with that we take on trips. And of course you've got your dashboard of your AutoFix 3210, which VPWR, right, is your voltage from your ECU for what the alternator's charging, and you should know that if it's in the 13s, high 13s, 14 range, that's charging, and if it drops down around the 13 or lower, 12 to 13, that's just your battery voltage, okay? You can always have battery monitors there. By monitoring the battery, depending on the situation, it may show you there's a problem before the battery light comes on, okay? I do look at things just like you have a fuel gauge. I look at the fuel gauge, I look at the temperature gauge, also look at the coolant temperature, which is currently 85 degrees, because we're driving in a lousy 13 degrees at the moment. So, you know, it's running on 13. Anyway, guys, like I said, time to end that one. It's a bada bing, bada boom. Thanks for listening. Hope you got something out of it. Catch you on the next one. See ya. I'll do another video, let you know what happens with the alternator in there. We'll get it checked out. Might do a bit of driving first. It might come on and off a few times before we actually do a repair, because I really want to know exactly what's wrong with this one. Bada bing. See ya.